The golden age of Hollywood, spanning roughly from the 1920s to the 1960s, was an era of unparalleled glamour and cinematic innovation. However, beneath the glittering surface lay a world of closely guarded secrets, particularly regarding the sexual orientation of some of its biggest stars. Today, we delve deeper into the lives of 5 such celebrities: Ramon Novarro, Liberace, Charles Laughton, Tab Hunter, and Anthony Perkins. Their stories of hidden loves, personal struggles, and artistic triumphs offer a fascinating glimpse into a time when being openly gay was not just career suicide, but often illegal. Ramon Novarro, the silent film Adonis. Ramon Novarro, born José Ramón Gil Samaniego in Mexico in 1899, was one of the most prominent Latin American actors in Hollywood's silent era. With his dark, smoldering good looks and undeniable charisma, Novarro became MGM's leading male romantic lead following the death of Rudolph Valentino. Novarro's most famous role was the title character in the 1925 epic Ben-Hur, A Tale of the Christ. The film's chariot race scene became one of the most iconic sequences in silent cinema, and Novarro's muscular physique, often on display in the film, made him a sex symbol for both women and men. What many fans didn't know was that Novarro was gay, a fact he kept hidden due to both his Catholic upbringing and the constraints of his era. He never married, instead forming close bonds with men, including journalist Herbert Howe, with whom he was rumored to have a romantic relationship. One of the most intriguing aspects of Novarro's story was his spiritual struggle. He once said, "I've always believed that to be a good actor, you need to have suffered." This suffering was evident in his constant battle to reconcile his faith with his sexuality. He often retreated to Catholic monasteries between films, seeking solace and attempting to cure himself of his homosexuality. Tragically, Novarro's life ended in violence. In 1968, at the age of 69, he was brutally murdered by 2 young men he had invited to his home. The killers, who wrongly believed Novarro kept large sums of cash in his house, tortured him for hours before leaving him to die. The brutal nature of his death shocked Hollywood and brought renewed attention to the vulnerable position of closeted gay men of his generation. Intriguing fact: despite being one of the highest-paid actors of his time, Novarro died with relatively little money. He had given much of his fortune to his family and to the Catholic Church, perhaps in an attempt to atone for what he saw as his sins. Question for viewers: Ramon Novarro's struggle between his sexuality and his faith was a defining aspect of his life. How do you think this internal conflict might have influenced his performances, particularly in religious epics like Ben-Hur? Liberace, the flamboyant entertainer. Waju Valentino. Liberace, known professionally as simply Liberace, was a pianist and entertainer whose flamboyant style and incredible talent made him one of the highest-paid entertainers of the 1950s and 60s. Born in 1919 to working-class parents in Wisconsin, Liberace's rise to fame is a quintessential American success story. Known for his candelabra-adorned pianos, extravagant costumes, and charismatic stage presence, Liberace brought classical music to the masses with a hefty dose of showmanship. He once famously quipped, "I don't give concerts, I put on a show." Despite his over-the-top persona, which today might be read as camp or queer, Liberace steadfastly denied being gay throughout his life. He even successfully sued publications that insinuated as much, famously declaring in court, "I'm not homosexual, I'm a man's man." Behind the scenes, however, Liberace had several long-term relationships with men. The most famous of these was with Scott Thorson, his chauffeur and live-in companion from 1976 to 1982. Thorson, who was 40 years younger than Liberace, later claimed that the entertainer had asked him to undergo plastic surgery to resemble a younger version of himself. One of the most fascinating aspects of Liberace's story is how he managed to maintain his popularity with Middle America despite his increasingly flamboyant persona. He once said, "I don't give them just music. I give them an experience." This attitude, combined with his undeniable talent and charm, helped him weather changing musical tastes over the decades. Liberace died of AIDS-related pneumonia in 1987, though his illness was initially kept secret. His estate and doctors originally claimed he had died of heart failure, and it was only after his death that his sexuality became public knowledge, revealing the extent to which he had lived a double life. Intriguing fact: despite his fame and fortune, Liberace never learned to read music. He played entirely by ear, a skill he developed in his youth playing in speakeasies during Prohibition. Question for viewers. Liberace once said, "Nobody will believe in you unless you believe in yourself." How do you think this philosophy applied to his own life, given that he had to hide such a fundamental part of himself from the public? Charles Laughton, the versatile actor. Charles Laughton, born in England in 1899, was a British-American actor renowned for his versatility and powerful performances. From his Oscar-winning turn as Henry VIII in The Private Life of Henry VIII to his chilling portrayal of Captain Bligh in Mutiny on the Bounty, Laughton demonstrated an incredible range that few actors of his time could match. Despite being married to actress Elsa Lanchester for over 30 years, Laughton was known within Hollywood circles to be gay. His sexuality was an open secret in the industry, though it was never acknowledged publicly during his lifetime. Lanchester later confirmed in her autobiography that theirs was a lavender marriage, a marriage of convenience between a gay man and a woman. Lofton's struggle with his sexuality often informed his performances, lending depth and complexity to his characters. He was known for his ability to portray flawed, often grotesque characters with a touch of humanity that made them unforgettable. His portrayal of Quasimodo in The Hunchback of Notre Dame, 1939, is particularly noteworthy, with Laughton bringing a profound sense of loneliness and yearning to the character that many have interpreted as reflective of his own experiences as a closeted gay man. One of the most intriguing aspects of Laughton's career was his only directorial effort, The Night of the Hunter, 1955. Though a commercial and critical failure upon release, it's now considered a masterpiece of American cinema. The film's themes of good versus evil, the loss of innocence, and the facade of respectability, hiding true monstrosity, perhaps reflect some of Laughton's own inner conflicts. Lofton was known for his wit and self-deprecating humor. He once quipped, "I have a face that is a cross between 2 pounds of halibut and an explosion in an old clothes closet." This humor perhaps served as a defense mechanism, allowing him to deflect attention from his personal life. Intriguing fact: Laughton was a mentor to a young Shelley Winters, who later said that he taught her more about acting than anyone else. Despite knowing about his sexuality, Winters developed a crush on Laughton, later saying, "I was too naive to know that Charles's sexual inclinations were not toward women." Question for viewers: Charles Laughton often played characters who were outsiders or who didn't fit societal norms. How do you think his experiences as a closeted gay man in Hollywood might have informed these performances? Anthony Perkins, the intense actor. Anthony Perkins, born in 1932, is perhaps best known for his chilling portrayal of Norman Bates in Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho, a role that would define his career. Yet Perkins was a talented and versatile actor whose intensity and vulnerability on screen captivated audiences in films like Fear Strikes Out and Friendly Persuasion. Off-screen, Perkins struggled with his sexuality for much of his life. He underwent psychotherapy in an attempt to cure his attraction to men and had relationships with several women, including actresses Sophia Loren and Victoria Principal. However, he also had relationships with men, including a notable romance with Tab Hunter, and a 6-year relationship with dancer-choreographer Grover Dale. One of the most intriguing aspects of Perkins's story is how his sexuality may have informed his most famous role. Norman Bates, with his repressed sexuality and complex relationship with his mother, could be seen as a dark reflection of the struggles faced by closeted gay men of the era. Perkins brought a nervous energy and underlying tension to the role that made it unforgettable. Perkins eventually married photographer Barry Berenson in 1973 and had 2 sons with her. While he never publicly came out as bisexual during his lifetime, those close to him understood the complexity of his sexuality. Tragically, Perkins died of AIDS-related pneumonia in 1992. His widow, Barry Berenson, later said that he had kept his HIV diagnosis secret for fear it would damage his career. In a cruel twist of fate, Berenson herself died in the September 11th attacks in 2001, aboard one of the planes that hit the World Trade Center. Intriguing fact, despite being typecast after Psycho, Perkins had a successful career as a recording artist in the 1950s. His single Moonlight Swim reached number 24 on the Billboard Hot 100 in 1957. Question for viewers. Anthony Perkins once said, "I have learned more about acting from watching Hitchcock than from anything else." How do you think working with Hitchcock, known for his complex and often dark portrayals of human psychology, might have allowed Perkins to express aspects of himself that he had to hide in his personal life? Tab Hunter, the all-American boy. Tab Hunter, born Arthur Andrew Kelm in 1931, epitomized the all-American boy next door in 1950s Hollywood. With his blonde hair, blue eyes, and chiseled good looks, Hunter was the teen heartthrob of his era, starring in movies like Battle Cry and Damn Yankees, while also enjoying a successful singing career. Behind his wholesome image, however, Hunter harbored a secret that could have destroyed his career if revealed. He was gay, a fact he kept hidden for decades until coming out in his 2005 autobiography, Tab Hunter Confidential. Throughout his years in Hollywood, Hunter was forced to play the part of the heterosexual leading man, even going on studio-arranged dates with actresses to maintain his image. Meanwhile, he had to keep his real relationships, including a long-term romance with Psycho star Anthony Perkins, strictly under wraps. One of the most fascinating aspects of Hunter's story is how he managed to navigate the treacherous waters of Hollywood as a closeted gay man. He once said, "I believed, wholeheartedly, still do, that a person's happiness depends on being true to themselves. The dilemma, of course, was that being true to myself, and I'm talking sexually now, was impossible in the 1950s. Hunter's career took a hit in 1950 when Confidential magazine published a story about his arrest at a limp-wristed pajama party in 1950. While the article didn't explicitly out Hunter, it was a close call that highlighted the constant danger he faced. Despite the pressure and fear of discovery, Hunter managed to have a long and varied career in film, television, and theater. In his later years, he became an advocate for LGBTQ+ rights, using his experiences to shed light on Hollywood's hidden history. Intriguing fact, in the 1980s, Hunter made a comeback in camp classics like Polyester and Lust in the Dust, directed by John Waters and starring alongside drag queen Divine. This late career turn allowed Hunter to play with the very image of all-American masculinity that had once constrained him. Question for viewers. Tab Hunter's story is one of living a double life for the sake of his career. How do you think this affected his personal relationships and his sense of self? Do you think there are still pressures today for actors to hide their sexuality? The stories of these 5 stars, Ramon Novarro, Liberace, Charles Laughton, Tab Hunter, and Anthony Perkins, offer a fascinating glimpse into the hidden history of Hollywood's golden age. Their struggles, triumphs, and the double lives they were forced to lead paint a complex picture of an era when being openly gay was not an option for those in the public eye. These men navigated a treacherous landscape where their true selves had to be hidden away, often at great personal cost. Yet, despite the constraints placed upon them, they managed to create lasting legacies through their art. Their performances continue to captivate audiences today, perhaps resonating even more deeply now that we understand the personal struggles behind them. Their stories also serve as a reminder of how far we've come in terms of LGBTQ+ acceptance, while also highlighting how much work still needs to be done. While today's actors may have more freedom to be open about their sexuality, there are still pressures and prejudices that exist in Hollywood and society at large. If you found value in these stories and want to explore more about LGBTQ+ history and entertainment, consider joining our Rainbow Spotlight community. A simple like or subscribe can help us continue shining a light on these important narratives. Together, we can celebrate the full spectrum of human experiences and keep the conversation going. After all, every story shared is another step towards understanding and acceptance.